Hey, how's it going, everybody? Shaun here for another edition of Shaun Solo, and today I want to talk about Quantic Dreams, the studio, and Detroit Become Human. The trailer debuted at Paris Games Week, which actually a lot of big announcements came out of Paris Games Week, which is kind of a weird thing. It's something I think I had heard about it, but no, not too many people paid a ton of attention to it, and this year it kind of became a thing. In terms of actual, the date for, No Man's Sky was, the June 2016 release date for that came out, and, you get to see, some footage of Wild, a new open world, kind of like nature. I think it's made by the guy who made, Beyond Good and Evil. He's working on that. You also saw more of, Horizon, I think it's called, right? Yeah, I think so. Horizon. I want to say it's Horizon. It's that dinosaur hunting game. The mech dinosaur hunting game looks really cool. Looks really actually, I'm really excited for that. That's also got a release date of 2016, some point. Probably going to come out in the fall of 2016. But, I'm a big fan of Quantic Dreams. So I was actually pretty excited. I've been waiting for them to announce something. Actually, when I first saw David Cage, I actually watched the press conference. I just happened to be home. And I saw a link to it, so I watched it. And I saw David Cage come out. I thought they were going to just announce the director's cut of Beyond and Heavy Rain coming to PS4 in a collection, like a Quantic Dream collection. That's kind of been rumored. And in fact, I guess some people have done some digging around the PlayStation software interface, whatever. There's actually trophies already for PS4 live on their servers, I believe. So it's actually done. They just haven't announced yet, when it's going to come out, if it's going to come out. And most speculation is now that they've announced Detroit Become Human, that it's probably going to come out, within 6 to 6 months before that game comes out, as sort of a reminder that, Quantic Dreams is a thing. I've always been kind of a Quantic Dream apologist. People really get down on Quantic Dreams, and David Cage specifically. They always talk about how, he's, this pretentious, arrogant dude. Because he speaks in very lofty terms. He's trying to bring emotions, all the emotions, to players. They're trying to find, a way to connect players to narratives in ways that are specific to video games. And I think it's awesome. I think it's a cool thing. He swings for the fences, and he's not always successful, and even some of his writing is not the greatest all the time. It's just inconsistent. It's not, consistently bad. There's just aspects of it you're oh, that's really weird. It's tonally out of place every occasionally while you're playing the games. But for the most part, I think they're really interesting, and I think if you're just a fan of storytelling and video games as a storytelling method or a mode of storytelling, a new media way to do it, I don't understand why people give Quantic Dream such a hard time. I really don't. It kind of baffles me. They're not perfect, but they're these kind of grand, ambitious experiments. And if you don't like them, I understand that, but I can't imagine if you take this stuff seriously at all, or intellectually to think about it, how could you really be that down on it? It baffles me. The critical evisceration of Beyond Two Souls kind of baffled me. I was just it's not perfect, and it's got a lot of problems, especially on the back end. But it's not terrible either. And it does some interesting stuff, and it's a step forward. But people have all but already come out and announced that Detroit Become Human is going to be beautiful garbage, because that's what they think all Quantic Dream games are. It's weird. I said, specifically they attack David Cage, specifically for being a hack, basically. And that he's too concerned with, the narrative experience and not concerned enough with making a video game. And somehow, for some reason, that is the time where they feel resentful about it. It's weird. Jim Sterling has, a weird vendetta about him. Some people from, writers from Kotaku to IGN, they all, have these very bizarre opinion. I mean, they'll go and, support, the pretension of something say, Gone Home, which is just, Gone Home is a small team, very modest goals, and it's very successful at it. But it's not more pretentious, and it's less of ambitious than what they're doing at Quantic Dreams, for sure. Quantic Dreams is the next level of that kind of stuff, and I don't understand why people don't At least support the notion of doing it. I don't know. But that's neither here nor there. I really like Quantic Dreams. I've always been in their corner ever since, I mean, except for Omicron, which is this terrible PC game that came out years ago. You can get it on goodoldgames.com if you really want to. But Fahrenheit, or Indigo Prophecy, as it was called when it was released in America, I bought that blind buy just because I thought it sounded interesting. And, yeah, and I've kind of been a fan ever since. Always been at least had my finger on the pulse, kind of paying attention to what that studio was doing since then. Because I thought, like, Indigo Prophecy was such a cool idea. Indigo Prophecy also suffers from, like, being terrible on the back end. But that game had, like, they lost, like, their budget or something. They got their budget cut, like, midway through production, and then the ending is all just, like, this fucking nightmare mess. Like, it makes no sense, but it is what it is. It happened. But yeah, it's still a good game. It's still good. Worth your time. Not good, but I'll say interesting enough to be worth your time. And you can get, like, the director's cut, like, remastered Fahrenheit. I think it's on sale right now. It's October 30th, 2015. It's on Steam. I think it's on sale on Steam right now. It's worth checking out. It's worth picking up. Heavy Rain, also, I think. Problems on the back end, but, like, a really impressive experience nonetheless. Like, it's something I really enjoyed that game when I played it the first time. I've been meaning to go back. Actually, I was kind of waiting. I thought, like, maybe we would get an announcement, because, like, they've known about these trophies, or that they had some sort of PS4 collection since, like, early this year. And I thought, like, it would probably be announced for, like, a holiday or a fall thing, so I was kind of waiting, and I was just going to play them again when they put out the PS4 collection, but if it's going to be like another year or so, I'll probably just play them on my PlayStation 3, I guess. But it would have been awesome, because I would have loved to have, like, just direct streamed, like, that game, because that would be a lot of fun to stream. Because there's a lot to make fun of, there's a lot to enjoy, there's a lot to talk about when you play those games, there really is. But let's talk about Detroit, Become Human. Looks like we're taking on some lofty stuff here, you know. Gonna be more emotions, more better graphics, more polygons, more emotions. Hell yeah, David Cage. So it looks like it's gonna be talking about some kind of puts androids into the context of a Civil War type thing. Does some really interesting stuff. It takes place in Detroit, which is cool. Like, it went from the Motor City to the Android City. Interesting, right? Like, so Detroit kind of came back as a producer of something in the United States. Obviously, it doesn't really understand why. Michigan, and Detroit specifically, is like a post-apocalyptic hellhole because of sanctions and industry moving out of the country. But, like, it seems like it's actually acknowledging kind of the harsh realities of that area, and kind of also kind of bringing up a lot of interesting stuff about androids, and about, like, at the end of the day, like, what are emotions, and are they learned responses? And if an android has a learning computer where it can learn things, can it learn to react, and can it learn to have emotions? In a sense, develop a soul and an awareness of itself. An ego, I guess, would be the best way to put it. That's what separates us from most things. You know, inanimate objects type things. That's what separates us from computers at this point in time. In artificial intelligence, it is not self-aware in the sense that it has ego. So it's interesting to think about, and it's something, like, you know, it's been bandied about. It seems very similar to basically the film Ex Machina. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's got shades of the end of that movie. It's like what that movie implies or infers. And it seems really interesting in the sense, and, like, not only because it's not just, like, the fact they're androids and they're being used as products, and where are they on the spectrum of awareness, and whether or not it's a form of slavery, right? What separates an android from a human, and the idea, actually, it seems like they have, like, kind of shades of the idea that there's, like, kind of a human uprising against the production of androids, because basically they're destroying blue collar. They're taking all those jobs, and then humans are probably left out kind of to starve and be penniless. And it seems like kind of like there's this element of classism that's going on that actually exists in the real world. And as we kind of move towards a more automated future, a lot of those blue collar jobs are probably going to disappear. within the next 20 to 50 years. Probably be gone. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to be realistic androids walking around doing those jobs, but there will be a way to automate it. I mean, you see shades of it. I mean, just what do you think a self-checkout is? That's what's happening. It's moving in that direction. And once the software and the technology just catches up with what they want, like, why would Walmart pay somebody $8 an hour to work a cash register when they can just make a machine? So you got to think about that. And that seems like something that's actually going to be addressed. So it seems like it's definitely super ambitious. Like it's got some real lofty stuff, some real serious things going on. So I'm curious, like, to how effective it's going to be, because it's those pretty serious topics, more serious than I think that's been tackled so far, for sure. The most grounded, almost. I know it's got like kind of a crazy quote unquote sci-fi story, like on its surface level, but the subtext is very prescient. It's very real. So I'm definitely curious, like, how it's going to handle that stuff. And because even in fairness to, like I was kind of being critical of the critics earlier and how they feel about the Quantic Dreams games in general, but David Cage is, like I said, he's inconsistent. So if you're going to deal with like really serious topics that people are going to respond to, then it's going to take a little bit more of a deft hand. So hopefully he'll be able to bring it home. Maybe this will be his masterpiece. I'd love it if that was the case. People are already kind of starting some kind of weird manufactured controversy about it. So it's like the same thing that happened when the new Deus Ex game got announced. You don't fucking remember what the name is. Like Deus Ex something or other. Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Is that what it is? Yeah, I'm going to say Mankind Divided. When the whole thing, the use of the word mechanical, the word was apartheid. Used the phrase mechanical apartheid, and they were like, how dare you use that word? That word has been, it's used to describe something real and horrific, but it's just like, well, yeah, it's using a science fiction framing device to talk about real, serious things. That's what good science sci-fi does. They're doing this, they're kind of making similar things about this Detroit Become Human, because the main protagonist is a young white girl, so, like, how dare they talk about civil rights with that as your main protagonist. So I don't know. I mean, it's a cool idea. Like, I think it's cool. It's like, there was a PS3 tech demo called Kara, which this is kind of the full fleshing out of, that Quantic Dreams released right before they announced Beyond Two Souls, right before they started showing it. Kind of want to show the engine. It was like an engine preview. And it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's actually a really good, like, little short film, and it kind of has the best. That's David Cage's, like, some of his best work is actually in that little short film. Now, hopefully, he'll be able to fully realize that, in a larger game that's actually has to, like, sustain and, be like a 11 hour experience. Because, I mean, it's like the short film is really great. Like, I would check out that. If you've never seen it, like, watch that and then watch the new trailer. It's like this robot basically, like I said earlier, like, gaining ego, becoming self-aware, and then, they're about to tear her apart, basically, disassemble her, because she starts feeling too many emotions, and then she expresses that she doesn't want to die. Like, it's really interesting. So I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm always looking forward to things like that. I think that things that are ambitious and challenging, even if this thing is not a huge success, even if it kind of fails a little bit, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay if it's not perfect. But I like the fact that, like, somebody like David Cage is out there trying, is doing this stuff, pushing this medium forward, because it's the people that come after David Cage, the people that, like, exist in his wake, basically, that are gonna, like, the new developers, the new game designers and stuff, the people that are gonna be inspired by the work that the foundations that he's setting down, the work that he's doing. Like, that's an important thing to remember. Like, so you can, like, people can, like, wave their finger at him and, like, be assholes and be, like, say that he's a pretentious prick and all this other stuff, and he's a hack writer and all this shit, but, like, that guy is doing more for the future of the medium than, like, any fucking indie platformer is, or that any Call of Duty is, or that, like, you know, it's like people like David Cage and like Ken Levine. There's a reason why people like hold them in such high esteem. They really push the medium forward in ways that like most people don't. So it's, you know, there's a reason why, like, or Todd Howard from Bethesda, there's a reason why they're revered. They push these mediums forward. They're not resting on their laurels. They're always trying to do something new. And the most exciting thing about that is actually going to be the people that come after them. The people that are going to take their hard work and use it as a platform to push the medium even further. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Quantic Dream and Detroit Become Human. Yeah, I'm curious to see what the pulse is, what people are thinking about it. I haven't really seen too much either way. The only thing I've really seen is like, well, you know, Quantic Dream, beautiful garbage. It's going to look really good, but it's going to be terrible. And I don't think that's a fair assessment, honestly. I don't. I think people are just, like, very narrow when it comes to specifically Quantic Dream. And I think it's just because he speaks in lofty terms and people get, like, irritated feeling that he's pretentious. But at the same time, they'll, like, defend people that are way more pretentious than David Cage is. So, in ways that are just, like, will boggle your mind. But anyways, yeah, that's going to do it for me. I'm Shaun, and I will talk to you guys next time. I got something to talk about.